death of UK cinemas as we know it may actually be
Are movies just getting worse?
Is preparing to file for bankruptcy. Theater at the downtown Westfield Mall will have its final show.
May close all of its theaters here in the U.S.
The last movie theaters in Ashtabula County has shut down.
Is cinema dying?
From the golden age of Hollywood to the blockbuster-dominated 2000s, cinema has been a cornerstone of culture, imagination and storytelling. But today, some say cinema is on life support. Is it true? Is modern cinema dying? Has the traditional format of cinemas been lost? Well, in the past few years, it's had its fair share of critics, and people believe it's not as popular as it once was, usually for one of 5 reasons, starting with part 1, the pandemic. The movie industry relies very heavily on people leaving their houses and actually going to a theatre, so they were badly affected during the times of a global lockdown in 2020 and 2021. With people no longer being allowed to go out in public, the number of tickets sold plummeted. In 2019, just 1 year before the global lockdown, the number of tickets sold during the entire year was around 1.2 billion tickets, but just a year later, the number of tickets sold decreased by 85% to just 200 million. Cinemas across the world closed, and many companies, like Cineworld, dropped to 0 customers and 0 revenue. In fact, the year of 2020 was the first year since 2007 where the highest grossing film of the year did not make more than $1 billion at the box office. Customers are the main source of revenue for traditional cinemas and theatres, and with no customers, the box office industry would decrease by 75% in total revenue between 2019 and 2020. From the consumer's perspective, no access to the cinema means that during lockdown, people needed to find other ways to watch movies. This leads on to reason number 2, rival streaming services. Whilst the box office cinemas had a hard time during lockdown, streaming services would skyrocket, in particular the big 3, Netflix, Amazon Prime and Disney. They all gained a collective 160 million users just in the year of 2020, but this trend would continue past just the lockdown era. Urged on by some of the biggest TV shows of all time, streaming services have become the biggest entertainment platforms on the planet. Netflix, the current number 1 streaming service in terms of users, has, as of 2024, recorded 270 million global memberships and 200 million hours of content watched daily. In other words, Netflix alone is taking 200 million hours away per day from standardized cinema. The pure scale of modern day streaming services has completely shadowed traditional movie watching methods, and with its services being available in over 190 different countries, the influence that they have over movie watchers across the world is second to none. And with this level of competition for viewers, it is no surprise that cinema visits have decreased over time. The next reason is more simple. Going to the cinema has become so much more expensive. Since the year 2000, the price of a standard ticket in the United States has raised by over double its original cost, from $5.39 to $10.80. To put it simply, if people can't afford to come, they won't go to the cinema. This, you'll find, is the general reason as to the downfall of global box office revenue. Too many alternatives mean the majority of people would not turn to a traditional movie watching experience, instead other free forms of entertainment, one of which is other media. As mentioned in a previous video, short-form content and social media apps have taken a dramatic rise, especially over the last few years, really starting to take off during the lockdown period of 2020. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook all have enormous followings. YouTube has 2.7 billion users, Instagram has 2 billion users, Facebook has 2.9 billion users. Collectively, the 4.8 billion social media registered users rack up an estimated 4.4 trillion hours of usage time on social media in just 1 year. Imagine you're at home, maybe after a long day of school, or maybe after a long day of work. You could either get ready to leave, then walk/drive to your local cinema, buy a ticket and watch a movie, or instead you could be on TikTok in the comfort of your own home in just a few taps of the phone. And for most people, this decision is a no-brainer. Social media's advertising market is projected to reach over $220 billion in 2024, but cinema hit a post-pandemic high of only $26 billion in 2022. The fifth and final reason is arguably the most important reason, and it's simply because movies are just not as good as they once were. Nowadays there are so many sequels, remakes and spin-offs that every year people just aren't excited enough to go to the cinema. To put it another way, in the 2000s, when most people would agree was the height of cinema, every year saw iconic movies. 2000 saw Gladiator, Castaway and Mission Impossible. 2001 saw Ocean's 11, Shrek and Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And 2002 saw the likes of the original Spider-Man, Star Wars Episode 2 and Harry Potter the Chamber of Secrets. And this year's movies were Inside Out 2 and Despicable Me 4. In recent times, movies have just not created excitement. For example, in 2023, it was announced that there would be another installment to the Indiana Jones franchise, with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny set to release in June of that year. Indiana Jones is one of the most iconic pieces of cinema and was finally being brought back to the big screen over 50 years after the original was released. But the movie made just $384 million at the box office, the 12th highest grossing of that year, and actually losing over $100 million in total. One of the most famous and widely known movie franchises of all time created no excitement at all. In fact, in 2023, of the top 10 highest grossing films of the year, 6 were remakes or sequels, and in 2024, all of the top 10 highest grossing films so far are sequels, remakes or reboots. Hollywood just does not have the flair or originality for creating iconic movies. Even very recently, Joker No. 2, a sequel to the very popular movie Joker, got just a 5.2 rating on IMDb, and actor Tim Dillon, who played a security guard, saying it is the worst film ever made. There are countless videos on YouTube all about how modern cinema suck and Hollywood is destroying our heroes. Take Star Wars, Jurassic Park, The Karate Kid, Indiana Jones, Toy Story, and the list goes on and on. All great movie franchises have been weakened by a modern remake or a cash grab. It all goes back to the same point. People are just not excited to go to the cinema. There is no modern classic or blockbuster to go see. It seems there are only reboots, remakes, and meaningless cash grabs available. And for customers going to the cinema, it is not worth the time or the money to them. There are countless hours of free internet content, which people could argue is more entertaining. And also, it can be done from the comfort of their own home, on a phone, on a laptop, or on a TV. Do I think cinema has hope of returning to its former glory? Absolutely, but please, get rid of the sequels and my god, make some good movies.